Just focus on yourself is extremely common dating advice. But what does this actually mean? And does it actually work? Today, I'm going to break down the various different meanings that this line has and whether each of them actually works. And you'll want to stay till the fourth one because that's the most insidious one that most Asian guys get trapped on, and you'll definitely want to avoid it. Everybody says just focus on yourself as dating advice, but nobody seems to really agree on what this actually means. So here are four meanings, the four most common ones that I found that people really mean when they say this line. First, our parents, our well-meaning parents say focus on school, grades, career, right? Just focus on yourself and the women will come. That's the first definition. The second one is that society often says focus on yourself as sort of like general self improvement, like focus on your fitness, focus on your hobbies, your lifestyle, your finances, right? Generally, just making yourself better. The third one is that people often say, like after a breakup or even like a divorce, focus on yourself. And the last one is a lot of men, especially Asian men, after many unsuccessful dating approaches, resort to focusing on themselves as an avoidance technique. So these are the four most common meanings of the line, just focus on yourself. So now, which one of these are actually helpful? So the first one was our parents telling us that, hey, we should just focus on our school, our grades, our career, and then the women will come, right? Focus on yourself as a form of dating advice. Now, this one has really deep cultural roots. So, this advice is actually not technically wrong, it's just misplaced because our parents, they came from Asia, right? And they were from a generation ago, which is very, very different. So, in their generation, at least to my understanding, okay, and through my parents and other older Asian people that I've interacted with, when they were growing up, yes, the emphasis was on school, on getting good grades, on getting a good job, on who knows, even learning English, right? Making yourself sort of generally more valuable to, the economy, sort of like traditionally speaking. Because then at a certain age, if you still weren't married yet, your parents and your whole family would activate and go find you a mate, right? I've literally seen this happen in my family, like people activating through their networks. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who's still single? Who would be a good match? They set you up on all these dates, just like job interviews, right? Are you a good match? Are you a good match? Are you a good match? Irregardless of sort of romance or flirtation or attraction, right? It's like as long as you're a good match on paper, boom, sign those papers, get you married, just move on with the next phase of your life, right? That's kind of how it works in Asia. That's how it's worked in previous generations. And I've seen it happen in my family. Hell, they even tried to do it to me. Literally, when I went back to China one year, my parents set me up with like some very nice girl from some other family that looked at my photos and somehow approved of me. I don't know what that even means. But overall, this is advice that worked for them to create a certain type of marriage relationship that does not work in the Western world, where you now, as an Asian American or who knows, born in Australia or Canada or wherever you're born, we don't have the system where parents are going to go out for us and just like find women for us. And we don't even want that because, I mean, at least if you're watching this video, you probably don't really want like an arranged marriage, right? Like a functional marriage where it's just like, oh, we're compatible on paper. Like you probably want some sort of connection, love, attraction, right? And that type of relationship or marriage is built very differently than one where you just put your head down, study, get good grades until you're 32, then your parents just find some random good girl, match you up, and boom, you're off to the races. Like that is the outcome that, just focus on yourself from our Asian parents. That's the outcome that you'll get if you follow that advice. Now, depending on if you want that outcome, you may not want to follow that advice. The next version of just focus on yourself that's commonly put out there is sort of this self-improvement, like focus on your fitness, focus on your career, focus on your hobbies, right? And then the women will just, come to you. Now, this is also good advice, but it has a time and place. Okay, like if you're just using this purely as your dating strategy, I promise to God, that's not going to work. That's not going to get you 2 to 3 dates a week. That's not going to find you a long-term relationship. Okay. And if you've tried that, you probably know what I'm talking about. What this does work for is making you more valuable on the dating market. So let's say, at some point in your life, you could only attract girls of a certain caliber and you wanted to attract better girls. Well, hey, working on yourself as a product, making yourself more fit, more confident, dress better, all these things is going to allow you to attract more women and better women. So there's no denying that this is part of the dating journey. You just can't use this as your only approach. So my advice is there's a specific time to use this self-improvement advice, okay? And that's after you've successfully tested yourself in the market, as in you've presented yourself fully to the market and figured out what caliber of women you can attract based on the value that you bring to the market right now, okay? Then only once you know specifically where you land in the market and where you are relative to the woman that you want to attract, then you figure out, okay, maybe there's a gap here and I need to improve myself to meet that gap so that I can then attract that woman. That's what I did myself, right? Like I started my dating journey when I was like 21, 22. Like, did I necessarily have the fittest body? I didn't even have money. I didn't have, much going on for me, but I still put myself out there, calibrated, saw where I was in the dating market, was able to attract women already. Okay. And then I realized, okay, before I kind of settle down and get with my dream girlfriend, like she's kind of like here. So I need to do certain things to kind of move up the value ladder before I can meet her where she is and where she would actually want to date me. But I wasn't like, hey, I'm just gonna like work on myself indefinitely until one day I think I'm like a perfectly ready to enter the dating market and then I jump in. That would have been disastrous. Okay. That would have been disastrous because I would be working on myself sort of blindly, not knowing where I need to aim in order to attract what, right? I would just be like sort of in this, like in my head, thinking that I need to do certain things to attract a certain woman without actually testing it in real life. And that's what most guys do is they sort of have this perfectionist attitude of like, oh, I'm not going to enter the dating market until I'm perfect, until I'm jacked and I have money and I have a lifestyle and I have a house and apartment and car and blah, 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 blah. If you think about it, your classmate in high school that had a pretty girlfriend didn't have any of those things. So you don't need any of those things to start getting girls, okay? Literally, I've had fat clients, old clients, bald clients, short clients, like you name it, the deficiency, okay? Look through all my client interviews. You will see them, okay? All of those guys didn't wait till they were perfect. They just entered the dating market. I showed them how to present themselves the best they can with what they have, and 100% of them were surprised at what results they were able to achieve. Like, most of them thought like, oh, I'm down here, and so I can't get any girls or like only really unattractive girls. But once we presented themselves properly, they were able to be here. They're like, wow, I'm actually here and I can get these girls and I can get, 1, 2, 3, 4, even 5 dates every single week. Like, I didn't have to spend the next 10 years of my life becoming a millionaire and having a six pack. I could just be the way I am and already get really good girls. Wow, amazing. So to summarize, this approach, okay, has its time and place. If you're using self-improvement as a thing that you do before you start entering the dating market, I want you to realize that that's a perfectionist approach. Because if you just put yourself in the market right now properly, you would realize that you can already attract women that are of pretty damn good caliber, maybe even girlfriend quality. And that doesn't mean you stop improving yourself. It just means that, hell, you can get the result that you want way earlier than you think. Now, if you do that and you realize, okay, I can get girls, I can get dates, this is fun, this is cool, I like it. But the girl that I really want to settle with is maybe here. Great. Now you have some metric. Now you can know where the gap is for you to fill so that you can boom, 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 work yourself up to that so that you can attract her. That's what I did myself, right? So that you can know where you lay in the market, where she lays in the market, and what you need to do to close that gap. So the time and place to work on yourself in terms of self-improvement is after you've properly entered the market, calibrated where you are, where she is, and then you continue working on yourself in conjunction with your dating skills so that when you meet her, you have both the value and the dating skills to be able to attract her. The third way that people mean just focus on yourself is after a breakup. Okay, just focus on yourself. And I think what people mean is like heal yourself emotionally, sort of move on. Okay, and this one I actually agree with. Look, if you just got your heart broken, if you got hell divorced, I've had clients who are divorced, and you are not moved on from that yet emotionally, it's not going to do well for you sort of in your dating life. Like, you're way better off spending time with your friends, spending time alone, hell, building up your new life that is moved on from that old person so that you can enter the dating market with a fresh emotional slate, right? You don't want to show up to all your dates with all this baggage, anger, vengeance, right? Trying to prove something. Like, none of that's going to help you connect with the woman that you're talking to. You need to get to a place where all of that's behind you and you're showing up on the date looking forward to meeting this new girl, as opposed to using this new girl to maybe sort of as a band-aid for the pain that you're still feeling from the old relationship. So I agree with this one. If you've just broken up, take the time, and it's different for everybody. Maybe it's 1 month, 1 week, 6 months, 12 months, who knows? But to get yourself to the point where you're excited to date new women. When you feel excited to enter the dating world again, that's the right time for you to jump back in. And the fourth and last one is the avoidance technique. I'm just focusing on myself. And what this really means is that you've tried unsuccessfully with dating many, many times, and it hurts too bad to try again. And this one is the most insidious one, the most dangerous one. Okay. And I'm going to explain right now. It's kind of like a whirlpool where once you get in, it's very hard to get out. Okay. So just to look at this from a logical standpoint, first of all, this is not actually some sort of dating advice. This is an avoidance technique. If we were to look at this as dating advice, it would make no sense at all, because if you're just focusing on yourself, i.e., running away from the dating market and not putting yourself out there, what does that actually mean about you as a man? Okay. It means that you are avoiding fear, you are getting weaker, you are backing down from challenge, which makes you less attractive to women. Okay. Women want the guy who is up for the challenge, who doesn't back down in the face of fear, who doesn't back down in the face of some kind of difficulty. So inherently, if we just look at this advice objectively, it's already making you less attractive, which then basically makes it bad dating advice. But the tricky part is this is a very, very socially accepted reason, okay, to tell your friends, your coworkers, why you're not out there dating. I mean, nobody's going to sit down with their coworkers over a beer and say, oh, I got rejected too many times. Oh, nobody's matching with me. Oh, every girl is ghosting me. I mean, how painful would that be to just like straight up tell people that? Nobody's going to do that. Okay. But what we are going to tell them is, hey, I'm just focusing on myself right now. And then you get the nice little pat on the back from all your friends, like, oh, that's so great. Like, you're focusing on yourself, you're making yourself better. Like, you don't need women anyways, right? And then we feel a little bit good about ourselves. And then, we go home and days pass, months pass, years pass, and we still don't have dates. a girlfriend, but hey, we got the proverbial, pat on the shoulder. We didn't feel the sting of the actual rejection. So the sad part about this is that 99.9% of guys who are using this, I'm focusing on myself excuse, okay, haven't actually done dating correctly, okay? They've gone out there, they've dated or tried dating in all the wrong ways and come to the conclusion that either dating doesn't work for me, I'm too Asian, or I'm not good enough, right? They've come to these conclusions based on false evidence. It's just like if you were applying for jobs, right? Let's say you apply for 100 jobs and you got zero interviews or zero, job acceptances, right? And you come to the conclusion that like, oh, the job process just doesn't work or the job market is broken or I'm not good enough, right? And then you just say like, oh, I'm going to go work on myself, which really means I'm just going to avoid job applications for the next year because it's too painful to get another rejection. But here's the thing. What if you were only trying one approach with these 100 job applications and it was one that you sort of made up yourself or just randomly, decided based on YouTube or randomly started doing because your friend did it, like was it actually a proven, tried process? Or was it just kind of a random process that you just decided to try and throw darts at the wall and none of them hit? In my experience, that's the case for most of Asian guys is like they put themselves out there by asking out their friends at work or in their social circle or putting some haphazard, photos on their dating apps and swiping for 2 weeks and being like, this shit doesn't work, right? And then they go on a date and they spend $200 on the date and then the girl ghosts them and then they're like, this shit doesn't work. I spent all this money. I spent all this time. I tried all this. Did you really try it in a way that even makes sense, like scientifically, objectively? I really want you to question that. Now, the really insidious part about this one is that it's deceptively hard to get out of because you have to accept that you were doing something wrong, okay? And with dating, this is especially painful for guys because it hits us straight in the ego. We're like, fuck, maybe I'm not great at dating. Like, do I really need help? Do I need other people's advice? Like, I can't just figure this out on my own. Well, maybe that's the case sometimes. Like, I had to do that myself. I had to decide for myself that, like, I'm not gonna try to be like Mr. Macho and just like figure all this out. There's other people out there who have figured this out already. I can just you get their advice and just speed up the process, right? So it's like, do I want to hang on to my ego and be correct? Or do I want to just like get the girl? And the second reason this is hard is because you have to get back on the horse and try again, right? And it's like, you know, because we think that if we get back out there in the dating world, the same rejection and the same pain is going to happen again. But it's actually not true because, you know, if you were doing it a certain way and it got certain rejection every single time, well, that's because the way you were doing it was wrong. If you now were to get back on the horse and the horse instructor tells you how to properly ride the damn thing, you probably are not going to fall off and, fall on your face again. So here's my advice. Okay. If you're listening to this and I haven't bruised your ego too much, and you're actually kind of open to what I have to say about this, the first advice is be logical and smart about it. Okay. Zoom out and look at the perspective objectively. Have you seen other guys who are less valuable than you, like younger, who knows, way older, who knows, way shorter, balder, fatter, uglier, whatever the case is, less accomplished? Have you seen them getting girls going on dates? If you haven't, watch my playlist of all my client interviews. Just look at their faces, man. Just look at their faces and tell me that they all don't look completely different. Okay. And all of them have gotten 2 to 3 dates every single week, some even way more. Okay. So if there are people who are less valuable than you doing better than you with girls, does it really have to do with you? Or maybe does it have to do with your approach? And if you're open to this idea, It's actually very liberating because if you're the one that's fucked, there's no saving. Okay? It's over. As soon as you believe that you're the one that's wrong, it's like there's something wrong with me. There's nothing you can do about that. But if there's just something wrong with your approach, well, you just got to learn the new approach. I mean, how liberating is that? There is salvation. And my second advice is just realize that, look, if you were doing one approach, two approaches, some approaches that weren't working, and the next time around you do it smart, you get guidance, you go down a path that other people have gone down, okay? Like the chances of you facing the same pain and rejection are nearly zero. Like, if you were trying to, I don't know, learn swimming and you were just trying all these random strokes and paddles and flailing and stuff, and every single time you basically drowned. And next time around, you get a swim instructor who just tells you, hey, move your body like this and you're going to float. Do you think that you're going to almost drown again? Probably not. So, this last one, this avoidance technique of, oh, I'm just going to focus on myself, is actually the most common one that I see amongst Asian guys. And yeah, of course, it's painful to get rejected. It's painful to not have success with women. It's painful to drop your ego and say, look, maybe I do need help with this. But, the reality is like you can either hang on to that or you can just get guidance from, people, be it me or somebody else who know how to do this and then just replicate the success without any of the pain and rejection. You just need the right path. So I've just broken down the 4 different meanings of just focus on yourself. First, it was our parents saying focus on grades and school and career. Second, society says focus on your self-improvement, your fitness, your career, etc. Third is after a breakup, you kind of want to heal yourself emotionally. And fourth is the most insidious. It is the avoidance technique of I don't want to feel pain and rejection again. The only one that I agree with is number 3. Yes, you should heal yourself after a breakup. The other 3 are all either misguided, misplaced, miscontextualized, or just non-dating advice. They are things that people use to cover up the real reason why their dating life isn't working. So, if this video somewhat resonated with you and you want to start killing all your excuses, go on 2 to 3 dates a week, find that long-term relationship, then use the link below to book in a call to talk personally with me about how I can potentially help you with that. Cheers, and I'll see you in the next video.